Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome to another episode of the Chaps Chat Cats, a part of the Hoops Crew Media Network. My name is Jake, and I'm joined in the virtual studio by two exceptional gentlemen's Sambo and Johnny. How are we, chaps?
Sensational.
Exceptional.
Fantastic. Good energy off the top. Like it a lot. I'm also well.
I was
And so should everyone.
The energy emanating.
Oh, energy's good. Energy's good.
It's good.
But we ain't wasting any time on it, because in the meantime, every 6 weeks, a person is torn to pieces by a crocodile in North Queensland. On the show tonight, science. On the show tonight, Cats win a classic over the Pies in round 8. Then for the Patreon subscribers, we're going to do a bit of news. We're going to do a round 9 preview. If we get time in this episode sandwich, I'd like to slide a little sliver of maybe month in review. We've churned through another 4 games. Could be good to take 5-10 minutes and look back at those 4 games and our feelings about them. So we might do that on the Patreon. Go, you know where to go. We've had a glut of people jumping over, trying out the free trial. A few have jumped on board in a permanent basis. So yeah, if you want to help us to get to 50 Patreon subscribers before the end of the season, we'd love for you to go on over. Had 4 gins before I started this episode. Now I can't speak. Yeah, so go over, jump on the Hoops Crew Patreon. We'd love to see you over there. Chaps, we need to get into it. Before we get into it, we have to say a big thank you to our media network sponsor, Cyril Cook Florist. The Hoops Crew Media Network is proudly sponsored by Cyril Cook Florist. Visit them at shop 1211 Leather Street in Breakwater. Phone them on 035 222 2244 or visit their website at www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au and use the offer code GOCATS in the voucher field at checkout to get 20% off your next online purchase. All right, let's rip the pleasure Band-Aid and get into this thing, shall we? Time to get into the round 8 recap. Thank you, Colin.
Jesus.
Producer Colin.
Colin just really
I don't know what
wants to fucking belt us over
Rubbing
the
a bit of salt in the wound. He's just reopened it and
come on, Colin.
put some salt in there.
Either that or it's probably more likely that Colin just doesn't know his numbers all that well.
Yeah.
But in his defense, he's also not great with words.
It's true. All right, let's get into it. My recap starts thusly. Friday night, 5:45 p.m. Julie Skirt Bellows punches her time card and exits the 7th story of the inner city cinder block that serves as her workplace. Julie is a typist. She talks little, types fast. 85 pages of corporate vomit an hour. On her way home, she acquires ramen from a hole-in-the-wall place, navigates a hellscape of trams, and returns to her 1-bedroom apartment and her pet iguana, Agora. She settles in for another night on the couch, perhaps taking in another installment of her favorite deep dive Cold War documentary. As she fumbles with the remote, a fateful misdirect exposes Julie to the image of 44 demigods clashing in a cauldron known as the MCG. Transfixed, Julie takes in the contest, a hot war of peak performance as oiled beefcakes go bicep to bicep and blow for blow across a mouth-watering, hormone-boiling 2 hours. Geelong strike first, swiftly and with confidence. Injury list longer than Methuselah's beard, but 3 goals on the board inside 10 minutes from the boots of Neil Blixhalves and a mullet-adorned muscle man, Baslenka. Game over? Game on. A boiling hot, ladder-topping Magpies cocktail laced with skill, confidence and experience carves out 7 of the contest's next 10 goals to leave a stunningly meagre 7-point halftime lead. Halftime, and Jeremy Cameron's sideline interview is fireside relaxation on a double dose of ketamine. The laconic key forward utterly unpanicked about a first half where his team hung on by their claws against a home side who seemed intent on destruction. That destruction feels a knife's edge away to start the third term as goals to Myercheck and 53-year-old former NBA All-Star Scott Pendlebury open Collingwood's margin of advantage out to 20 points. Game in the balance. If Jeremy Cameron was relaxed, Captain Patrick Dangerfield now whipped himself into a blood haze. Forged from deep fire and tipped with nuclear ferocity, Johnny's ultra man crush P Daddy goes to work, and he has reinforcements to go with him. Goals to Jeremy Cameron, Ollie Wiltshire and Sean Manor undo the host's work to disfigure the double-digit lead back to 7 points that it was at half-time when the siren sounds for the final change of ends. Game on the line. Patrick Dangerfield goes full Norse berserker, assaulting the match like a holy warrior fueled with battle shrooms. He channels a timeless, chaotic violence that breaks the opponent apart and allows Geelong's army to charge into the breach. Two Ollies, Henry and Dempsey, find the big sticks before an authoritative set shot major to Danger himself and a mercurial snap from Jack Bowes makes the lead 7 points to the Cats. However, nothing is given in football. Everything must be taken, shored up, and stowed away. With minutes left, Collingwood find 2 goals from the boot of ever-reliable Myercheck before a final seconds free kick in the centre square sees milestone man Jack Crisp marking inside the paint of 50 with a chance to win the game off his boot after the siren. The kick sails wide. The win is Geelong's, another breathlessly unbelievable triumph for this remarkable mythic football club. Julie Skirt-Bellows sits in silence. A storm is boiling inside her. No more typing corporate documents. If human beings are capable of this, what might I do? Ponders Julie. Today, all is changed, Agora, she implores her iguana. At dawn, we pack rations for a journey. We steal my uncle's motorcycle. Down deserted highways we shall ride. You upon my shoulder, a flaming scimitar in my hand. Town by town, city by city, we shall liberate the dreamless from their catatonic capitalist comas. Free the drones from their corporate cages. Rage and revolution under the silver stars of the ancients. Pies 12-15-87, Geelong 13-12-90. Johnny, your opening statements on the game.
Oh, oui. I feel French now. Revolution.
John suffered a brain injury and turned French. What's happening?
First off, I'll just give Jake Crisp a good congratulations on 245 consecutive games. That's a pretty impressive milestone. And
unbelievable.
It's just insane that a player's able to do that. But that's all the praise I'll give Collingwood for now, but I'll switch over to Cats. Yeah, that was a game and a half of edge of your seat, thrill-seeking enjoyment from start to finish, really. It was hard-fought, finals-like. Cats, as you said, Jake, got off to a perfect start in the first 3. And, yeah, it felt fairly good, but also fairly wary of what the Pies are capable of. And we found out pretty quickly that they got back in the front and held on to it for a while, but I never felt stressed or worried until the third quarter when they sort of got out to that really quick start and kicked the first, it was only like 2 or 3 goals, a couple of goals. But it felt like a bit more than what the scoreboard was showing. And I think you were saying there's just that little bit of like, oh, if it keeps going like this, are we going to be able to fight back? But as we know, this Cats team, they really lay down and give up on a fight and got back to 7 points. And I think at the end of the third quarter, I sneakily thought to myself, we're going to win this game. I just felt like we're going to win this game. There's something in this Cats team tonight. They're not giving up. They had that shocking game against Carlton last week. We said they would respond, and they responded, and they responded sensationally in that fourth quarter. That was probably some of the best game time by some of these young Cats. Like Connor O'Sullivan was just amazing in the defence. Oisin Mullen shutting down Nick Dacos was incredible. Like he still had influence, Nick Dacos, but I still thought Oisin Mullen was able to quell more of his influence than other players have tried. Ollie Dempsey again, just absolutely sensational. Yeah, just the maturity, the level-headedness of these younger players, alongside the impact of the more senior guys, it's just really impressive. And as many people in the AFL media have failed to mention, we had no Tom Stewart, no Jack Henry, no Colin Jasney. Reece Stanley was out for 3/4 of that game. We had no Brian Myers was out to fight back like they did, especially after the Carlton loss, and to come away with a really nice, hard-fought victory and a really excellent last quarter, except for the last few minutes where Colin really pushed hard. It was, it's probably one of the most enjoyable games. I said it against the Adelaide game as well, and I'll say it again here. That was a really enjoyable game to watch. I was watching by myself. My wife was watching with me, giving a bit of stick. She's a bit of a Collingwood supporter.
Is that why you said you were watching by yourself, technically, but she was there?
Yeah,
because
she was there.
She's a Collingwood supporter, so
the same thing.
watching by yourself.
Basically,
yeah, I was copping a bit from her. That's all do. She said I was a bit too serious and salty when she made fun of me, which is true in hindsight.
Did you? Well, then I hope you made fun of her at least once we won.
No, she was in bed by then.
Yeah, go in there and wake her up and suck shit.
Play the song.
I just wore my cat's jumper all day. The next day,
and nothing else.
Yeah, especially at work.
Full Porky Pig in it.
You're only working in the kitchen. I mean, surely there's not too strict health and safety protocols around.
No.
It.
A sensational game, and one where the youngsters stood up at the right time, and so did I at the right time. Edit that one out.
If you know what he means.
It's only because we just went from talking about Porky Pigging it that.
Over to you, Sam, before I say something worse.
Such visuals. Okay. Look, I don't want to waffle on too much, but I will. No, I think you guys summed it up very well. Jake captured the epic emotion of the moment, and I think Johnny touched on a lot of points that I concur with. I think again I would echo that crisp. It would have been a fairy tale ending. Like I didn't have a lot of nerves about that kick. Do you know what I mean? Like if you told me beforehand there's going to be a kick on the siren with Collingwood to win it, I would think that would have been the most nervous part of the game. But I think I was more nervous about all the stuff leading up to that, like the other two goals, like the other sort of run on from Collingwood. Whereas that goal, I kind of went, this is a good. If this is how we lose it, it's a pretty decent way to lose.
If my check had the shot at goal, I would have been a lot more worried about it. And I just felt like
but even in terms of like the likelihood of them kicking it, I think I'm just glad it wasn't DeGoey. If DeGoey was lining up for it, I would have been like, no way, stuff this. But I think it would have been a pretty, as everyone said a million times, a pretty fairy tale ending for him. So I would have dug into some of what went wrong. It would have been an interesting podcast, but I think I would have been pretty at peace with how we conducted ourselves across the game with the outs that you guys have mentioned. Like I think I would have been pretty positive going to this podcast either way. But like I said, when they started to come back, those last 3 minutes, that was much more like sort of peeking through my fingers kind of stuff. Like, is this happening? And then by the time it got to that point with the siren, I was like, well, that's this is just footy. Um, speaking of, if there's one more, I know we always say if there's one thing we could put on a shuttle to Mars or into the sun, and then we always add things. To add another thing, it would be the phrase "How good's footy." I'm bloody sick of that.
They
I was
use it a
almost
lot, don't they?
if Jake had it thrown to me first after his very eloquent introduction, my plan was to go, "Oh, how good's footy?"
How good is footy, they say?
Just to really, you're going to come out there with that. Well, I one up you with how good's footy. And the other, and we're not going to get into anything else, but the other phrase that I would also put on the shuttle to the sun is in the spirit of the game.
Oh yeah,
I want to hear it. Will not say it.
that's not in the spirit of the game, Sam.
No, absolutely.
They played up to the line.
It's an incredible.
The umpires just need to put the whistle away. Or the other great one is you don't want that costing the team a grand final.
Yeah.
Or what if that happened in the finals?
Yeah. But no, like it was a really, really encouraging performance from so many areas, and yeah, as we've said numerous times with the outs we've had. Like I don't like to piss and moan about the outs when we lose as much as possible. Of course, I do it a little bit, but when we win with outs, it really feels like it's worth bringing up.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. It's crazy because like to start the game, like the Cats was sort of. And I thought after those 3 goals, it's funny. If you go back to 2024 against the Pies, we kicked the first 3 goals of the game within the first 3.5 minutes of that match. And then they stormed back, took the lead. And then in fairness, they never got on top of us in 2024 like they did on Saturday night. I thought there were some echoes maybe of the Carlton game. I don't know if you guys think that is fair, but like they obliterated us around the clearances to start the match. And like use that to good effect as well. Like it wasn't just, we talk about, it doesn't matter if we lose the clearances necessarily because, the way we set up, et cetera, but I honestly don't know. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on why it didn't happen, but how did they not acquire a 6-goal lead with the way they were winning the ball out and then cutting things up through the middle and like just transitioning so quickly? Like how did they not have a more insurmountable?
I have some thoughts as well, but let you go first, John.
I was just going to say because they're ranked 18th team for goal set shots and shots at goal. They're the worst team apparently. Like they're really very
stick that in my pipe and smoke it.
They go forward. I'm pretty sure that's what they said. Like they're pretty low on the totem pole of taking advantage of shots at goal.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if they're the bottom or not, but they're definitely in the bottom few.
Down
and
there, yeah.
But I imagine they'd be very high in generating shots on goal, which is why they still manage to win games because they get so many, and their conversion rate doesn't have to be necessarily as high.
Well, they've only conceded 552 points and scored 735. So yeah, it's like levels. It's leveled out. They're good defensively. They're good in getting inside 50, and they get so many shots. So, as you said, it's like the more shots you get, the more chance of missing you get. So it lowers that average a bit more.
Do you want the stats here? They are shots at goal, average shots on goal per game. Collingwood are second in the competition for 29 shots at goal per game. But goal accuracy, they are the 3rd worst team. Only Melbourne and West Coast are worse for goal accuracy. There you go.
Yeah, that's so, and to like combined with that, I do think that Collingwood played really well and we weren't at our best a lot, but I do think it's moderately overlooked that we were doing well at forcing them into low percentage set shots. Like, I don't think we were controlling them in the middle. We were letting them move it through the middle. We were letting them get into the 50 pretty well. But I do think that, and maybe I'm glazing Geelong here. Maybe it's just one of those things. But I feel like they didn't, although everyone's harping on about, if we had a kick straighter, we'd win, from the Collingwood point of view. I don't feel like they missed many dead in front, 30 out kind of shots. They were generally a little ways out and pushed off to, but even he kicked that from outside the 50. Like he took, and he was, I mean, obviously the slight angle too. But a lot of that's where I feel like a lot of their shots was at a bit of an angle, probably slightly further out than they'd like to take that shot. So I do feel like we'd kind of formed a bit of a wedge in our back 50, and we were defending sort of behind post to behind post and out to the apex of the arc really well, and forcing them to take shots in the areas either side of that. So I think, as we said, they're not the best at set shots, and I think we were trying to maximize that, kind of go, we'll let them have a shot from there. So there was that, and the other thing was that because that wasn't working at various points, I feel like we were forcing them to deliver into 50 the way we hate us delivering inside 50. Like there was a lot of, okay, we're not doing so well with these set shots from 40 out on an angle. Let's get it into the goal square. And I feel like there was a lot of that. They'd carve us up through the middle, and then that last delivery was that high floater down into the goal square. And Blix Arves, O'Sullivan, DK were kind of just able to fist it out or pick it off. There wasn't a lot of inset marking from us, but I feel like we were doing pretty well at defending that as well. So that was the other reason that I think it was they weren't able to score goals from where they were getting clean shots, and then they weren't able to get shots at goal from where they were resorting to deliver it to. So I feel like that's what really held us in there for long stretches of the middle part of that game. And I do think too that there's a few things that are sort of like narratives in the media that I think are getting overlooked a little bit. The Cats are being the Cats are being talked about as having come back, and then the Pies had to come back. And I don't think anyone's really talking about the fact that the Pies had to come back first. Like, as far as I think, we started well, as you said, Jake. But even, as far as complimentary towards the Pies go, like they also could have probably gotten a little flat, and we could have had kicked straighter to take that excuse as well. We probably could have had 6. We missed 2 or 3 in that really hot start. We missed a few. So I think the game was even more of a seesawing affair than it's kind of looking like in the media. And in the media, and the other thing was, God, what was the other point I had? That people were sort of talking about Collingwood living in chaos. They were like, Collingwood love this chaos. The chaos ball is where they're and this is the commentators on the night, that the Pies are winning through chaos. And I really didn't feel like that was the case. Like it was fast, but it was like fast kick to mark.
74% disposal efficiency.
Yeah, which is the blueprint for taking it up to the Cats at the moment. Is a fast kick mark game. Like, and I thought, in all the talk of Collingwood's inaccuracy in front of goal, which I think is a little overblown, the thing that people are missing is how accurate their kicking not at goal was. Like, I felt like that was the big difference for about 60% of that game, was where, once again, we've talked about this before, like we kick it or handball it, and it's just slightly not perfect. It's an accurate kick, and it probably looks like an efficient disposal on the stats because it goes to the right player, but that player is breaking stride to collect it, or they're gut running to mark it because it's further ahead of them than they wanted it to, or they're having to pick it up after a bounce. Like our running game, our kick and running game wasn't able to be, again, where we want it to be because of that inefficiency. But Collingwood, I was blown away by how they were able to pull off these high risk, fast kicks to like the cleanest mark you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And the stat probably says it was an uncontested mark. but you're like with the positioning of everyone, you're kind of like you'd almost mark that down as a contested mark because of how close the Geelong defender was or the Geelong midfielder was. But the inch perfectness of their kicking through the middle was like probably the best I've seen this year, I would say, from another team.
Yeah, and then we're able to also turn that kicking handballing on really nicely in that fourth quarter. Get us back in front and control the game from there. And then they were able to do it against us yet again. And those couple of marks by Myercheck, I was just like, how does that happen?
Yeah,
that's just good timing, perfect timing both times. Those two marks. He's a good kick at goal as well. It always worries me when he gets it inside 50. Like he's going to kick this goal.
And I would say, I mean, maybe I'd get shouted down for this, or maybe this is completely uncontroversial. I don't know enough about what people think of Collingwood to know, but I would say Josh Dacos is a better kick than Nick. Is that a genuinely accepted thing?
I said that to Michelle. I said I would rather have Josh Dacos in my side than Nick Dacos. I think he's a better player in other ways. Like he's a better kick. He seems
this
more
is we're not hating on Nick Dacos.
No, he's a crazy good player, but I just feel
please someone make John's take go viral. We want the clicks.
I'd rather have Josh Dacos in a Cats jumper than Nick Dacos. I don't think that player suits the Cats, but the Josh type does.
And just some of his kicks off half, like when he was in like a halfback position, where he was like kicking it, and it almost looked like a ludicrous, like only a small kick, but you're like, he's just absolutely muffed that. But it was like inch perfect to drop between two Cats players, where the Collingwood player was like doing a flanking run. Like I really, we don't often talk about opposition in a complimentary way, but there were moments in this game where I was like, damn, that's good.
That's good. And to be fair, they have turned their attitude around and of how they present themselves, and they're very more of that like pretty open club, pretty outright club, and they seem to actually have a good time and make footy fun. And so do the Cats. I think they're very two similar teams in that way. How good's footy? It's in the spirit of the game.
It's absolutely in the spirit of the game.
But enough talk nicety about Collingwood.
Well, did you have something to throw to Jake?
I was just going to back up your stats there on the Dakai. Nick went at 71.4% disposal efficiency, 89% for Josh. 87% for Josh Dacos. Difference is, I guess, 19 uncontested and 3 contested for Josh, and Nick was 12 contested and 16 uncontested. So, the different roles, but it is funny like that Nick Dacos is at that point where you're like, geez, O'Shane Mullen had a really good night on him and he still had 20 whatever touches.
I think
28 touches, 1 goal, 6 clearances.
The big thing for the Mullen tag is that fourth quarter, how quiet he kept him in the fourth. Like overall, that's still a really good game, but full disclosure, Mullen almost got into my votes because of how crucial that fourth quarter was. Like
he was close for me as well.
Yeah, he had more clearances than Dacos. So to not only keep Dacos
in the last quarter
across the game, I'm pretty sure.
He only had 2. Mullen.
He had 4.
At 4.
4, and Dacos had 6.
Oh, Dacos had 60. Okay, maybe it was it's definitely the last quarter.
But still, that's
one in the last quarter.
That's impressive.
Yeah,
off 9 disposals, 4 clearances. Very impressive.
And I think maybe
tackles.
I was looking at the center clearances too, because O'Shane Mullen had 3 and Dacos had 2. Maybe it was the center.
That might have been what you're looking at.
Either way, like I thought that last quarter was enough. I don't know how many touches Nick had, but it was under 10 in the last quarter.
He had 3 touches and 1. I was going to say
it was very minimal. So that was almost enough to get into the votes.
No free kicks.
But
given away by O'Shane Mullen on the night. 2 free kicks for.
And got a 15-minute penalty.
That's pretty rare.
Which, unfortunately, he muffed the kick going inside 50. But still to get under the skin to get a 50 off Dacos is impressive, and you've done your job correctly when that happens. And it's the opposition are going to look at that and go, well, there we go, there's the pattern, let's go after Nick.
There's a bit of verbal work all night. I thought, like, you could see Dangerfield pretty early on winding Maynard up. I don't know if you guys caught that on the broadcast, but Dangerfield was right into him, and then it obviously all really came out in the last quarter. But you could see it all through the night. There was a bit of edge to the Cats. I've said that all season. I think there's just something sort of
the one
them.
I love. Just had a big laugh at Maynard when he was complaining to the umpire, because it's just like the little 5-year-old complaining to mum about the 10-year-old just pushing him away because they've been annoying little shit. It's like, what's the umpire going to do? He hasn't done anything wrong. I just loved it. It's like,
you go. Oh no, I was going to talk very, very general about the game, so nothing about that subject. So if you have something that you'd like to lead,
I was going to move us on. So no, go general.
Well, I guess I was going to circle back a little bit to the talk of chaos about the Pies, which is not true. But also, their kick mark was such high speed, and high speed efficiency, and we did, as you said, John, turn it like a similar thing around, but it was a little different. Like, I don't think we did the same thing, that we weren't as direct with our kicks. Like, I feel like we went back to that switching game that we do so well, and we hadn't chosen to do or hadn't been able to do because of the way the Pies were set up. I'm not sure. Or it also could have just been a confidence thing. Like, it can be, you need to be pretty in your zone to do a switch kick if you're attacking down a flank, to kind of go, no, I'm going to cut this off, turn around and kick it backwards into a potentially risky area if I don't make this kick right, and then switch it across the ground. So I think we used the switch more than they did, and we were probably a little slower and more deliberate with our kick mark. Like, it wasn't a boring style by any means, but I really liked how much we kicked it, not only across, but like fully backwards. Like, we would make it have a chain and move it up and kind of go, no, this isn't right, and just turn around and kick it backwards and give ourselves a chance to move around and reset. Like, I think it's really gutsy to like have momentum and go, if this is just going to end up in another intercept mark, if I keep pushing in this direction, so I'm going to like switch it around and really confuse them. Like, I thought that was, I didn't see us do that once. I'm sure we did, if I replayed it with that in mind, but I didn't really see us do it once in the first 3 quarters, the kick back or like a real exaggerated switch across a couple of kicks to the other side. And I feel like we did it probably half a dozen times in the last quarter.
Yeah, those kicks backs were very nice. I was just looking at marks on the stats, and there's only one Collingwood player that didn't have a mark, and that was their sub, Hoskin Elliott. And out of the top 20, there was 6 Cats players in the top 20 for marks. So yeah, very high kick mark game by Collingwood, and it's been proven that that's the one way to beat the Cats.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think the way that Collingwood like to play is they kick and mark, but they also love to play on a lot as well and keep it moving, which also feels like it falls into the way the Cats like to play as well. Is ball's moving, that means we can get Tom Atkins in on the tackling and other players in on tackling and pressuring, and get that nice defensive system working a lot easier than when teams kick mark and then able to like take their time going inside 50. Whereas that's fast play, they've got less time to find the right target inside 50, and gives us time to set up the system and repel a bit easier, which I thought happened over the night. I still found those marks inside 50, but I felt like it was less controlled, like when Carlton were doing it.
And I feel like that is where I will be complimentary to Smith. I feel like the other thing on top of our switching and our more efficient kicking in the last quarter, I felt like his ability to carry it, but at changing angles while carrying it really helped us, because of the way Collingwood were like applying the pressure when we were hand passing it. it wasn't working. When we were kicking it long, it wasn't working, and then when we were hand passing, it wasn't working. So he was really able to break those, as they say, break the lines, but break it up a bit by picking it up and not giving off a disposal that was going to be intercepted, but also not just running where it looked like he was going to run against traffic. And I think that's probably where, definitely on the night, this was the case. I'm not sure overall, but where what he has that is different to Holmes, and where I feel like he has some life to give as an inside player, like a bit more on ball sometimes, is his ability to change direction. So he's not as fast as Holmes necessarily. Like when Holmes is sprinting and kicks into that extra gear, he's next level. But I don't think I've seen Holmes be able to do what Smith does, where he picks it up and kind of like does a little dance around. Someone else comes in and gives him a shepherd. Like I think that's what I saw like Atkins, Manor, and Bowes doing all night, was helping Smith with a bit of a shepherd to break a tackle. And that really, I think, allowed us to gain territory and settle us down while moving at pace. Like it was settling us because he wasn't getting tackled immediately. And so that perceived pressure, I feel like, subsided a little bit, because the tackle wasn't hitting him straight away. But then at the same time, as I said, we were still moving at pace. It wasn't like a market and go, all right, let's settle down, let's chill, and allowing everyone to set up. So I do think that element of his game was pretty crucial to how we were able to kind of punish them while remaining calm.
Yeah, definitely. It was a
Smith,
brilliant game by Smith. Like that was just electrifying and really good from like the commentators were like complaining that he was too much playing in the back half.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, it's getting he got a lot of disposals from the back half, but that also leads into what you were just talking about, Sam, is he was able to then use it pretty well going for those runs and making the right decision in either kicking it back or running back or just making clever choices. And it's just one of those games that there's just another player on the team that had an even bigger impact. Otherwise, I think Bailey Smith probably getting most of our 3 votes, but you know, it's tough when there's another player on the list that does insane things.
I think this is easily Bailey Smith's career best year thus far. Like you look
Easily.
at his statistics, he's averaging 30 disposals. He's averaging 5.3 tackles. Both of those things are career high. He's never averaged a higher than that. Now that's at the finish of a season. He's got to do this for the rest of the year. He is averaging 4.9 clearances. Previous career best was 3.7 in a season. He's averaging 10.5 contested possessions. His previous best was 8.5. Yeah, I think without a doubt, this is his best footy. He's playing his best footy. And if you'd told us we were crying out for a midfielder who could average just 30 touches, we just wanted someone to be a link player, just someone who could be a sponge for possession. And he's really doing that, and a little bit too, you know, like think about the goals he's kicked the last few weeks. You know, the one in the loss to Carlton was a really nice one. You know, kicks another one
on
Saturday night. You know, he's doing some things that are Cam Guthrie-esque plus, you know. So I think I've been a harsh grade of him. I don't warm to his personality, but as far as his output on the field, you really couldn't speak more highly of it so far. And on a night where we needed people to lift, and in fairness to him, he was probably one of the factors that lifted before Dangerfield did in that first half when we were really, really struggling. He was racking up a lot of his work there. So I think he deserves a big amount of credit for what he's doing on the field.
Definitely.
And I think sorry, you go, John.
I was just saying, and he's getting over that 60-50% disposal efficiency, which we asked for, and he's been doing that the last month. So everything he's doing is what we wanted. So and he's doing even more, which is incredible. And you know, I'm still on the fence thinking he might not be that player to win a grand final for us, but each game I go, he's turning into it, that player that could win us
definitely.
that big game.
Coming back from an ACL and playing at this level, and like you said, it's almost sometimes like he's listening to the pod, and we go, "Oh, it'd be good if he did this," and then like the next week he's able to do it. Everything bar is off-field stuff. He's definitely not listening to us there.
No.
but yeah, like we like you said, John, we asked, we're like, "Oh, disposal efficiency doesn't need to be really high, but it could be a little better." And then 70 plus, which I think is higher. I'm happy if he's in the mid to high 60s, really.
Yeah.
And I think like you said, Jake, you know, I've also been a bit of a harsh grader. My expectations were high. And I still do think he has the strength and competitiveness to up those contested numbers a little. I don't necessarily want him to be more contested possessions than uncontested possessions. I do think what he brings to the team is what we were asking for, racking up those possessions, being available on the outside to receive a handball, all that kind of stuff. But I did think on the night, whether or not he can get more contested possessions or not, whether the team wants to use him in that way. I think maybe what's more important is that even his uncontested possessions aren't always based off a receive. I think is probably the next step before we worry about before I start looking at his contested numbers as an issue. I think if he can just be first to the ball more, and I don't have a stat to back this up, but I felt like that happened on Saturday night, that he wasn't necessarily reefing it out of someone else's hands, but it didn't always look like he was hovering around the outside of the pack waiting for the hand pass. Sometimes he was the one to zoom through and essentially get an uncontested possession that, had he not attacked it that hard, would have had to have been a contested possession or a tackle. Do you know what I mean? Like that hunger, I feel like he was using that hunger a little bit better to be first to it. And I feel like that's an improvement on his game to obviously sometimes operate in that other way. But when it's there to be picked up and taken, that he does that. Yeah, look, I think if he didn't improve, he's still one of the best players on the field for us, in a lot of ways. And it's crazy because you kind of go, I feel like he will improve because he's only just come back from an ACL and he's just finding his way in the team. It's almost scary to think that could become an even better player than what we're seeing now.
I thought it was so unsurprising, really. That's what's so funny, is that although it was stunning and the act of winning the game, like objectively, you look at it and go, like, that's incredible. How did you do that? Like, where the Cats were playing, how the Cats were playing, the people who were out, like, it should have been stunning, but I really wasn't. I know we sort of already touched on that. We felt pretty confident going in at 3/4 time, but like, I was just more a bit of amazement, I guess. Like, I went into that last quarter fully expecting us to run over the top of them, to be completely honest. And the fact that we did it, and I was just like, I actually said to Jacko and the old man, I said, I don't know how they do it. I said, I don't know how they get up for it. And if you think about it, this team has been doing this since like 2007. Like, since we won the flag, this has been a hallmark of Geelong football, where they never think they're out of it. And how do you maintain that for like the best part of 20 years, where other teams would have just gone, and you see it all the time, that teams get 3-4 goals down, they're being outplayed, and you're like, well, if we can just make this respectable, that'll be fine. Or they lose their heads completely and go out of it. Like, Geelong, just flint hard group of players who are just so well coached. And I just feel like we talked about it last week against Carlton. Like, I think the nature of Geelong's win against Collingwood on Saturday night, you could see that process happening against Carlton. It's that constant, hey, let's turn this shell over. Let's turn this shell over. Hey, let's try this lever. Let's try this thing. Let's try that thing. And eventually they get it figured out. They don't always get it figured out within a game. They don't always get it figured out within a season, but they are constantly looking to win. And I think that's like the simple key to all of this is, I am yet to experience a season since 2007 where it's like we're having a development year.
Yeah.
You know, it is always like, fuck
The-
off. We are trying to win the flag every year. We're trying to win every game, whether we're 60 points down or we're 60 points up. And I'll just say my credit to Collingwood is I thought you saw two sides on the night who had that mindset where
Yeah.
Collingwood went 17 points down late on, and it wasn't like. And I'll be honest, I thought, well, there you go, it's in the bag. I did think when we got 17 points up, I thought, sweet, salted away, I can relax now. And then they kicked those two goals. I was like, ah, shit. It was a good effort from them too.
I was sort of confident, but I was like, I said in the CHAPS Discord chat, it's like, can't relax until there's 0 seconds on the clock and we're in front. But I also thought if we get one more,
Yeah.
and it's ice. Yeah. And we just so close so many times, we just couldn't get there. And Collingwood were defending for their absolute life and doing everything possible. And to credit, they did extremely well in defence, not to let us get a mark. Ollie Dempsey, unfortunately, couldn't take that uncontested mark on his chest, just hit his chest a little bit too hard and came out, and Collingwood able to defend it. I was like, oh, they were very well drilled not to give away a free kick in there, because that's, those tight, hard-fought, frantic moments is when a tackle can go high or something can go wrong. And yeah, it was an intense last few minutes. But how good's footy when that happens? It's finals like.
Yeah, good's footy. Also, Collingwood really smart not to take Blixarves to ground in the centre clearance at the end there.
Yeah.
That's what kind of undid him.
Yeah. That was incredible. And it's not only Collingwood at large, but like that particular player that was on him, to realise he's trying to bind this up. And like, have you guys seen that before? Have you seen a player go, I'm not tackling? I don't know what he's doing, but I'm not tackling him.
No.
Like look at the umpire and go, what's this idiot doing? Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Like he's like elite, absolute elite level gamesmanship here to go, I'm actually gonna like take my hands off him and go, I'm not tackling him. Like he's just rubbing up against me like a cat.
We need to jump into votes, chaps. We need to jump into our votes, and then we can shoot out anything on the Patreon show that we didn't get to in the public. So now it's time for votes for players who stood out to us and did other stuff good too. Be nice to have a jingle for that, Colin. Like last week, chaps, let's just reel off our votes, then we'll talk about the players in question, because I imagine there's going to be a bit of crossover. I went with 1 vote to Shawnee Manor. I went 2 votes to Bailey Smith. I went 3 votes to Patrick Dangerfield. Sambo, then Johnny. What did you go with?
I went 1 vote to Tom Atkins, 2 votes to Bailey Smith, and 3 votes to P. Daddy.
I went 1 vote to Mark Blixarves, 2 votes to Bailey Smith, and 3 votes to P. Daddy.
All right, let's start with you, Sambo, on your 1 vote. Give us sort of your 30 to 60 seconds. Why was it Tom Atkins for you? Because I know there would have been people out there going, he had like he's probably his worst game of the season, blah, blah, blah. What was it that got him the votes for you?
Just glazing, really. No. To be fair, I had probably
glazing. The AFL has released their rankings for tackling in the 2026 game. Tom Atkins isn't even in the top 10.
For the what game?
AFL game. AFL 26.
Oh, right. The video game.
Video game. Tom Atkins didn't make the top 10 for tackling in their rankings.
It's just as bad as the FIFA games. Like, if you're not on the tin, you don't get the stats.
Tarrant!
I probably had 4 players that were vying for my 1, and both Blixarves and Manor, who you guys gave them to, were in mine. As I said, Mullen was there. I honestly docked Blixarves just because of that moment in the middle. I was like, just give it. I
thought that was going to happen.
There. It's harsh. I went.
That's
with
why
your,
I gave him my 1.
This is John's taken in the past. Jeremy Cameron, football school. I'm taking the elite athlete Mark Sabs to my very prestigious AFL school. Honestly, the Tom Atkins one is one vote to me, because if he hadn't been as good as he has been in other weeks, this would be a great performance from Atkins. So, like, still, it's like, oh, he only got 8 tackles. That's 8 tackles. any other week you'd go, geez, that's great. And he was, oh god, I had all my stats lined up and I've absolutely muffed it. He was second on the team, equal third on the ground for contested possessions, which I rate highly just in general, contested possessions. And in a game like that, I think it's like, yeah, it's pretty. He was only one behind Nick Dacos for contested possessions. So, like, I don't know. It's just one of those things where a stat means something for one player and not necessarily the same thing for a different player. And the other stat I had to back up my glazing was I mean, he had 4 clearances as well. There's a lot of people bound up on the same, so equal 4 on the clearances. And there was more, but I'm gonna have to give up because I had him lined up and now I've muffed him. But he was second on the ground for tackles with 8 in a pretty high game. As I said, I think he's been playing career best for the last few weeks, and this wasn't at the same level. But for me, he was a player that made a huge amount of difference in small moments. He was a player that even when we were on the ropes, his effort was never in question. And like Smith at the same time of the game when we were down, Smith was one of the players that kept going. But I don't think Smith is able to do what Smith does without Atkins laying those shepherds that I was talking about. Like, there was always, when Smith's on the highlights reel, there's someone shepherding someone away from him, and generally it was Atkins' manner. So yeah, I still think Atkins. It's a bit of a defiant vote, I suppose. Atkins gets no love unless he makes record-breaking stats, and then he just has a decent performance, and nobody even mentions his name unless they're going to say, "Oh, he was shit."
Yeah, drop him back to the 2s. Yeah, no, I like it. I think it's justified. Like we said, it's votes for players who stood out to us and did other stuff good as well. Johnny, your one vote went to Mark Blixarves. Why?
Because I can. That's why.
Glazing again.
Cool.
No, it's
one vote went to,
no. I just thought it was a really great performance by Mark Blixarves to come in and have to carry the majority of the ruck. I thought he did it exceptionally well. Yeah, he had that one blue, which nearly cost us the game in the middle of the ground, where it's like, what are you doing, you spud sometime? It was quite funny to see that happen. I knew it was going to happen. Like, I was like, we're just going to bound this up. They're probably going to get a free kick, and yeah, they did. But apart from that, just another really handy Mark Blixarves game where he just pops up everywhere, does a lot of really good things. Look at his advanced stats. He had a couple of only one free kick against, which was could have been a costly one, but 3 inside 50s, a couple of intercepts, score involvements, a couple of intercept possessions, like doing the ruck and also being able to kick a goal, and being able to still have some impact on the game. I just thought it was a good, outstanding performance for me. Like, not his best, but just considering the circumstances of having no Reece Stanley, I thought he performed exceptionally well.
I'll throw in a couple of stats in there for you as well, John. Equal team high for spoils with 7 for Mark Blixarves, which I thought was good. 6 hit-outs to advantage. Next closest on the team was Shannon Neal, Sam DeConing, and Jeremy Cameron with 1 each. He also had the second most defensive half pressure act in the game. Yeah, I liked him. Johnny, I thought he popped up in a bunch of spots. So yeah, no, I agree, chaps. There's definitely arguments to be made for those guys to get you 1 vote. Yeah, my Sean Manor, I think in another day, if one of Bailey Smith or Patrick Dangerfield doesn't do what they did, he's probably bumped further up the pecking order. But just a mature age rookie or second year rookie for the Cats out of Werribee, 18 touches, 5 tackles, game high, 8 clearances, 2 goals. And there was a moment there where I was like, it was in the last quarter when he kicked his goal. And I said, just pass it, Sean, pass it, handball it. And he just took it on himself and nailed the goal. I was like, oh, just do that.
He must have.
He's going to be a player.
Listened to the podcast when you said what you said and gone, I'm going to show this random guy that's talking about me. And you can, if you took the inspiration from that, then good work, Jake. You've done well.
He's also equal second on the ground for score involvements.
Yeah, I just thought it was and I think he was team high for pressure acts. So just the number of phases that he impacts the game, and look, honestly, he will continue to have moments that frustrate us. I think he will continue to at times take shots for goal that you're like, what are we doing? But I think it will lessen. I think it already has lessened, and I think the longer he plays in this team, and enjoys the success of playing in a team of equals as opposed to being the best player on the field in a team, I think he's just relaxing more and more into doing the simple things well. And I love his hunger for it. He never, he's third best for contested possessions for the Cats. He had 10 contested, 8 uncontested, went at 72.2% disposal efficiency. He just, I can't say enough nice things, I guess, about Sean Manor. I was so excited when we brought him into the team at the start of last season when we drafted him, having watched him play some really good VFL footy. And I just think he's just attacked it so well, the whole opportunity, to the point where he's probably, week in, week out, one of our better, most impactful players in a lot of areas. Let's go. We've sort of talked about Bailey Smith a bit already. Do you chaps have anything to add to what we've already said about Smith? Like we've talked about, he's in career best form. Really. We like what he does. No. Well, then that really clears the runway here. Patrick Dangerfield. What more? I'll give you some stats, and then I just Johnny, you can have first bite at the apple, and then Sambo, I want your thoughts. I put up a tweet earlier. 89%, Patrick Dangerfield's highest time on ground since 2021. In his last 50 games, he'd only gone beyond 80% time on ground on 5 occasions. His 17 contested possessions were his highest total since the 2022 grand final. So you could very comfortably say that this was Patrick Dangerfield's best game, I think, since the 2022 grand final. He had 6 goal assists, by the way, in that 2022 grand final, which sort of gets forgotten about. But Johnny, your thoughts on the captain?
Yes,
that dirty Hawks player.
Yeah. It was just one of those performances that inspires the team. And when you need someone to do something extra special, you need your captain to do it. We've had Joel Selwood doing those extra special moments for us at big games, at big moments. And now we're getting Patrick Dangerfield to do the same thing, only he's crashing packs, he's brushing off tackles, he's just shoving people aside like they don't matter. And it's just incredible to watch. And to see that happen on Saturday night in that last quarter, it's just, how can you not be a fan and just go, that is just an outstanding performance that deserves all plaudits that can get it go his way. Like, he had 464 meters gained playing as a full forward, but that's crazy amount. That's the 6th highest on the ground, like 464 meters gained playing majority forward. It's just, as I said, he grabbed a team, chucked him on his back and said, I'm going to lead the way, you guys follow me. And they did. They really did just follow him, and you can tell when he's in a mood to perform. You can see in his face, in his eyes, the way he moves around the ground. It's just like, don't want to go near him as an opposition player because he's just going to hurt you. And he hurt many players, and he broke many players, fans' hearts, and made us all just go, yes, this is why he's the captain. He's taken this role and he's made it his own, but he's also taken the Joel Selwood way of going, if you need to step up, you need to be the player to step up as captain and deliver when it matters. And he's been doing it every game this season. And as you said, this was his best performance in a really important big game after a poor game last week by the team. He's stood up perfectly, and yeah, it's going to be hard to stop him when he's on this form. And I think this gives the team confidence going forward now. Like, this is a big win, big performance, and the team followed him and didn't really miss a beat. But yeah, it was hard to go past him. Oh, thank you, Colin.
Yes, I agree with all those points. Sambo, please pile on.
Yeah,
a little more glaze.
Likewise, also agree. As I have been wont to do this year, more often than tuning into general media, although I sometimes, can't help but tune into the general media because sometimes I feel like I've just got too many brain cells and I need some to jump off a cliff. But what I've been doing, my preference this year has been to go to some fanalists like ourselves of other teams. Sometimes before, sometimes after the games, and I just think you get a better sense of what that team's going to bring and how that team is feeling after a win about the Cats than you do from watching, because they just don't grab narratives the way the media grabbed it. The media's grabbed the umpiring narrative and they've grabbed the Collingwood are the best narrative, and then on top of that, Dangerfield won the game. And now, obviously we're going on about Dangerfield here, so it's a little hypocritical, but like, you don't get any of the talk of the other players really. And if they talk about Smith, it's about his after the game stuff. They don't talk about his performance really. But anyway, I digress. The point of that was there's a channel which you guys might have heard of called Swoop Luke, Pie's channel. Yep. He seems like a pretty well liked and well known, and he put it really well about P Daddy, which was to say that, like, it's a perfect analogy. And he was talking about how a cat mother will, like, literally grab, like, the neck of the baby cats and, like, drag them around where he wants it. And he was like, Patrick Dangerfield literally did that. He grabbed the rest of the Geelong players by the neck and was like, "Come over here. This is where we're going. This is what we got to do." And I just thought it was well. I haven't seen anyone else make that specific.
Yeah, it's a great analogy.
So perfect.
Yeah, well done, Swoop Luke.
Yeah, but he was, and shout out to Swoop Luke too. He got heavy into the umpiring stuff, but I thought he was incredibly gracious about that. Yeah, like, incredible performance all around. And as Scotty said in his presser, not just the fourth quarter, like the fourth quarter is kind of taking over everything, but it wasn't like he was asleep for the other three quarters. Like, he was still doing Paddy things in the first quarter. He took a couple of really nice marks early on. Or maybe it was one mark and then one that he dropped, I think. But anyway, I thought he was just so, instrumental, but, like, demonstrative, you know what I mean? Like, he's so, like, this is the way we carry ourselves. This is the way we can go about this game. This is the amount of effort that's required to win football at this level. And I just think it's invaluable beyond the stats sheet. It's so invaluable to how many young guys we have to have that to look at. Like, that's all I really wanted to sort of add, because I think you've covered a lot of it, Johnny, and what you were talking about, like the stats on, how much he was on the ground and all that kind of stuff. I just think it's so, it's still so funny to me that go back not so long and I was like, I don't know if he's captain material. I love him, but I don't know if he's captain material. And now you're just like, he's just the pinnacle of leadership, really, in terms of, you can tell how he carries himself and how he's communicating to the younger players, but then also just being
Mm.
able to lead by example as well. Yeah, I think it's enormous.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Well said.
like, I think you can see where the switch got flicked on the score worm. It's the Jeremy Cameron goal at the 20.5-minute mark of the third quarter. And Dangerfield's involved in that. He gets a hand pass out and uses his body to shield the Collingwood player away from Cameron. Cameron gets around on his left and kicks the goal. Then a few minutes later, it's Ollie Wiltshire kicking a goal. Collingwood get one back through Tim Membry, but then Sean Manor hits the scoreboard, and we go in 7 points down. I really felt like that sort of blitz, like it's the 5 goals in a row, but it's 7 of those 8 goals kicked from the 20.5-minute mark through to the 27-minute mark where Jack Bowes kicked Geelong's final of the night. Like that's quite match defining, that streak for the Cats. And I think that's where Dangerfield really started to transform the game. It wasn't just the final quarter; it was that last 10 minutes of the third as well. Yeah, I think we've talked about it before on the pod, but like when you watch him do that, like that stuff makes you think back to like 2016, 2017, Patrick Dangerfield, and it also makes me go back to, again, he's the first player I would pick if you said pick a player from your lineup that you could put in any era of footy and they would be like just as successful. And I just go, when Dangerfield's like that, like you can see him in the 80s, you can see him in the 90s, like you can see him in previous eras of football, that his approach is timeless. Like his attack on the football, and in some ways, his attack on the footy is a thing that's probably dying out of the game. And you could argue the ethics and morality of that and whether it's a good or a bad thing, because when he's in that sort of blood haze, like his personal safety doesn't seem to matter a lot to him. He just becomes a battering ram. He's like a fucking nuke. He just goes into contest. And yeah, obviously some of that is stuff you're trying to get out of the game, but I think it's still incredibly exciting to watch. Do we want footy without that? I don't know.
The last thing I would say is I'm so glad, it's watching him play that makes you so glad that he's taking things so much easier, like he said he was going to, and he's, really watching the body, managing his minutes, sitting up there in the 50, waiting for the average easy mark. It's such a good choice. Glad he's followed
Excellent
through.
choice.
Yeah, definitely. Veteran move, protect the body. All right, let's call the public show there. We're going to go over to Patreon now. If you want to join us, and we'd love you to, go on over, start a 7-day free trial on the Hoops Crew on Patreon. We want to hit 50 members before the end of the season, so jump on board. It's not just
and specifically
this coverage.
Sorry, I was just gonna.
No, go.
Sorry, Jake. I tried to pick my moment. I feel like every couple of videos we get some comments about like, why do you talk about this part or this player? And I do think that is an area where the Patreon section covers. Like generally, we speak about the big things. We get in depth about a few things in the public show, and then we do, as we say, we just empty our notebooks in the Patreon, and we'll generally talk about some more players. There's at least 3 or 4 more players that I feel like we haven't even mentioned their names that deserve to be talked about. So yeah, if sometimes you're like, I wonder what they thought of Ollie Dempsey in that game, it's probably talked about in the Patreon.
Nice Patreon push there, Sam. Good job.
But also honest.
Join the Patreon.
It's an honest sales pitch.
But
I didn't say we talk about it
And
well. I just said we talk.
It's a one-stop shop.
You haven't sold it now, Sam.
It's a one-stop shop.
Maybe we shouldn't get the Patreon.
I mean, yeah,
you should.
It's worth your money. I mean, probably not as much as it is. It probably should be cheaper, but
Sam, stop.
It's worth some money.
Too honest.
All right, that's the blooming lot from us. We will be back on Tuesday night. We'll recap the Geelong v the Orange team game from round 9. Geelong's recent record against them, not that Great. So we'll talk about that game when we come back next week. Make sure you check out all the other stuff on the Hoops Crew Media Network, the public stuff from Ben and Paul, who are absolute troopers, churning out the Cats coverage for you during the week. I'll be back on Wednesday night for Patreon subscribers with my VFL show. Going to do coverage of the VFL women's game from the weekend, and then I'm going to try and do some sort of like a first quarter report on some of the VFL players because they didn't have a game on the weekend. So I thought, all right, they're about 4 or 5 games into their season. I'll sort of put a few thoughts together on where different players are tracking. George Stevens, Ted Closey, Keaton Mattify Forbes, etc. We can have a little bit of talk about them on Wednesday night. Until next time, thanks for watching. Go Cats!
Go Cats!
Go Cats!